What's up, everybody? Welcome to Beyond I Do. Thanks for joining us. Hope that the last episode with Aaron and Erica was good. It dropped this morning, so normally it takes some time before we start hearing some feedback and stuff like that. You didn't hear anything from last week's episode where we talked about the...
No, I haven't heard anything yet. The only thing I heard was somebody wanted to know where I got my jeans from.
From that episode?
Yeah. I've recognized, I think I told Nancy this too, like 2 weeks ago. I was talking and you guys did a clip and I was like, it was just one comment underneath it. And she goes, honestly, I wasn't listening to anything she was saying. I liked her necklace. I found it on the internet.
How funny. Yeah, we got some love from our 2 episodes again. Someone said navigating, maintaining marital boundaries. Somebody on our last episode commented how they really enjoyed that one, and then I opened up. Someone gave me a tip because we talked about people trying to hug me or something. Mm-hmm. So someone says, Pastor Adam, when women want to hug you, can you respond with, "I'm hugging you with my heart"? This will avoid any unwanted contact. An Orthodox rabbi gave this response to my sister, Latina, when she tried to hug him. I forgot to give her instruction before we attended a service. She will never forgive me and believes I set her up. There's a sibling rivalry. I get it. I mean, again, from that episode, like I like giving hugs, and Ashley doesn't have a problem with me hugging another woman. You know, I think that just having boundaries is important, and so from that episode, what we were getting with is I'm uncomfortable and awkward with affection in general. Mm-hmm. So even for you, like you're not really affectionate, I'm not really affectionate, and so there's I used to be affectionate, and then because you're not, it kind of wavered me off as we still have our moments where we're affectionate, but that kind of wavered off because that's not your type of love language, physical touch. So then a byproduct of that is that kind of side of me has just kind of leaned off. So for when a woman, if she wants a hug, I'm just like, yeah, absolutely. So, but that's great opinion. Someone could say that. My thing is, if I ever said I'm hugging you with my heart, I feel like that's a very intimate statement. So, and I'm not hugging someone with my heart because I don't know you. So I really wouldn't say that because to me, I wouldn't feel authentic about it. Yeah. In the sense of like, I'm hugging you with my heart, right? I'd probably say I'm hugging you with my mind before I say heart.
Or even that, I'd be like, you're hugging with your mind. What you thinking about?
Women with your heart?
And
just
your
hug
mind.
them. Just hug them with your hands.
Right, because in reality, if they really got a hug from you, they'd realize they'd never want to hug again because they're really awkward.
Yeah. So no, I appreciate. I'm yeah. We're totally good.
My husband's hugs are when I see him hug other women, it almost cringes me. I would like, can you just hug him like a normal person? Like yes, Alizé's gotten those. Yeah, literally. And then
just give me some dap. Yeah.
It's like anyone who pats, I feel like who taught you how to pat somebody? Like it's the whole.
Well, yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot. Yeah, it's a lot better than when I see, married guys where they be like, they hug someone, they like pick a girl up from their waist. Yeah, full embrace.
Just do a side church hug. It's like
that's what he does. That's what he does. And
then just a little.
I've had to have talks with married men before, and they're like, no, that's like our little sister, and I'm just like, yeah, let's not pick her up by her waist and lift her up in the air, my boy. Let's not do that. Okay. I don't care,
Yeah.
What about vice versa with you, Ashley?
I'm an embracer. I'm a
no,
hugger.
with men though. Like,
Yeah, I mean,
she hugs guys.
I hug guys. Yeah.
So you both have that, like.
She hugs all my friends and everything. Yeah, no problem with that. Yeah.
And then, but it's so funny because all his friends though, I'm an embracer of a hug. They hug me like he would hug me because it's me.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're like the awkward, like, I'm like, oh God, get off of me. Don't hug me. Just dap me up.
Right, at that point.
Yeah, like, and it's not like I'm wanting the hug, but I'm just like, oh, okay, you hug somebody like a normal person.
Yeah.
And then when it's the whole like, I'm like, okay, just give me a high five. Give me a high five. That was weird.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. And like you guys said, it just works differently for everybody.
Absolutely.
Like some people may be not comfortable or whatever, but
Right.
Yeah, and some people's like, their religious convictions are that way. Like if you I one time had a flight to Israel, and Orthodox Jewish women can't, if they're married, they can't sit next to they can't sit next to a man. They have to sit next to a woman. So like even if her husband's on one side, like let's say it's a 3-seat, and her husband's on one side or whatever, like she can't sit next to another man. So I've been there before, and she's like, "You need to move," and I'm like, "I picked this seat."
And
so
we
like,
were sitting across from him, and I was like, "You can move."
I was like, "You come. I respect your religion, but your religion ain't gonna come out of my inconvenience of me paying extra to have this leg room or whatever." So I told her like, "You could talk to the stewardess. I don't have any problem." But she's like, "Yo," she was like, "Oh, switch with someone that she was with," and it was like a middle seat, and I was like, "That for 11-hour flight to Israel, that's not happening." Nope. And she was almost like, "No, you should do this." And I was just like, you should talk to the stewardess about that. Like, I respect I'm not taking your religion personally, but I'm sorry. Like, you're flying in public space. You gotta consider that.
Or you should have paid to.
Yeah, you gotta consider getting on one where there's just 2 seats or something.
Well, I've
so
even,
like that stuff. There's a lot of people with their convictions, whatever, they can't shake a man's hand or sit next to him, and I respect that all day long.
Yeah.
I just don't think you need to impose that on anyone else. But Christians do that too all the time with other beliefs too. We try to impose certain values. Some stuff I think is just care, but other stuff is like, hey, everyone doesn't need to pray. You know, like not everyone wants to pray. I'm not going to force people to pray.
Right.
But some people try to be like, no, everybody needs to pray.
Right. By your hip.
Yeah. So it's like,
right,
you know,
exactly. And when you guys say hug, like it's not like you're going in for a waist hug, or it's nothing inappropriate.
No.
So that's why it's like there's that comfort level to do that.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, my family's very much huggers and kissers and all of that. And I mean,
Same for us.
All right, Betty. Well, because Ashley's got a parent-teacher conference,
I do.
We're going to film this. We got a little conversation. I'm like, no, we just got to move on to the topic of the day, or we're going to be talking about this.
He's trying to get out of the parent-teacher.
Well, apparently I can't, so that's why we got to finish. To hear Ashley talk, she's going to talk about Matthias over at the parent-teacher conference is meant for you to hear from the parent, the teacher to the parent, but Ashley's going to treat it as the parent to hear from the whatever, you know what I mean. Ashley's gonna be talking the whole time with the parent teacher. So how many times does he breathe in a day? You know, when he's sitting in his chair, what faces does he make? Like, who cares, Ashley? Is he doing good or is he not? Do we need to whoop him at home?
That's my
or do
baby.
we not?
Leave him alone. That's my baby. I held him like babies the other day because I missed it. So those are my babies. Leave my babies alone.
Don't start. Okay. Ashley brought up a topic today she wants to discuss a little bit, and it is, at what point should your spouse defend, speak up for you, get involved with their spouse when it deals with the opposite sex? So, for example, let's just say the wife is having conflict with a guy, and we can name some scenarios. And when does the husband step in? Does he step in? Does he say, "Oh, my wife, that's her conversation. That's her thing. She's an independent woman, i.e. NDPE." Or does he say, "No, I got to jump in. This is my time to jump in."
Yeah.
And should the wife be mad that husband didn't jump in? Should she be upset that he did? Same thing with a guy. If the husband's talking to a woman, you know, should the wife jump in? Should she not? All that stuff like that to maybe defend or speak up or issue a, "Hey, I'm bothered by this." Like, kind of where's that boundary? And obviously, this isn't in the Bible per se. So this is more of a perspective conversation that hopefully we're just bringing some perspective, some conversation, maybe our own experiences, maybe experiences we've seen from other people into the conversation. Yeah. So that's right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because I'll give one example where I think you've done it multiple times, and I've kind of put you in those scenarios to defend me because I have a mouth and I say some smart things. And so one time we were on a cruise, and when we were on the cruise, we were going to pick up Matthias. It was late at night, and we went in to go pick him up right before bedtime. Well, while we were in there waiting for them to pack him up, I was like, "Oh my gosh, hi Matthias, hi Matthias." There was this other couple that was standing there. Well, this couple was holding their child that was sleeping at the time, and I was like, "Oh my gosh!"
And you didn't know the baby, their baby was
back,
sleeping.
No,
they're holding their not their
to me.
baby, their 2-year-old or 3-year-old sleeping. And
their back is to me. And so I'm looking at Matthias and I'm like, oh, I'm so excited you have fun. Blah, blah,
and also
blah.
at the pickup, it says, please one family in the room at a time picking up. And they didn't adhere to that. They came in right behind you.
Yes. So they came in right behind us. So I didn't care because I was like, I'm just picking my kid up. But I didn't turn around. Their backs are to me. And I'm like, Matthias. So I'm not. There's kids running around screaming. I mean, even although it's late at night, it didn't say shh, be quiet. So I was like,
it's like a movie being playing and stuff like that.
It was quieter, but my tone was not loud. I was like, I was like, hey, Matthias, so excited. And all of a sudden, I hear that if you're going to push a button, this is a button. I cannot stand when I am shushed. All of a sudden, I hear is shh. And I was like, I looked around and I see Adam, and then I was like, okay.
But I'm across the room grabbing our stroller.
Stuff and everything like that. So he goes
stroller.
to the right. I'm standing there trying to get Matthias, signing him out, everything. And then I was like, okay, I didn't think I heard what I thought I heard. So then I grab him and I was like, oh my gosh, did you have fun? And then all I hear is, shh. My kid is sleeping. And I turned my head and I said, oh, I know you're not talking to me. I said, I know you're not. One thing we're not going to do is be disrespectful. Second of all, your butt's not even supposed to be in here until I get my stuff and get out. And third, and then the husband.
No. Yeah, so you say that, and then you turn back around to Matthias, and she goes, I don't know why you just can't shut your mouth and be quiet.
Oh, yeah. Basically, he said something to that extent.
And so I'm standing there, and they're having an altercation. And you know when you can, like, see someone take a breath, like they want to speak, you know, like there's a person breathing, and then there's like, you know, when you're talking to someone and they kind of like, you feel this like kind of forward energy, they take a breath, and so you feel like they're about to say something. Well, the husband does that. He's like, and in my head, I'm like, Lord, please don't let this man pop off on my wife. Like, this is going to be so bad for him, you know, like, and he takes a breath, and then she puts her finger in front of Ashley's face, and she goes, you just need to be quiet.
Girl.
Are you kidding?
Yeah,
Girl, that finger was literally right here. I was, are you? And I came, and all of a sudden I felt my hand get mushed out my face. And
no, the wife didn't say you need to be quiet. The husband did. He put his finger up. Yeah, he put his finger. He said you need to be quiet. You know, like,
yes, you need to be quiet. And so then all of a sudden,
so Ashley's like, she's like going to slap his hand out of his face.
My hand gets slapped. Yeah. Adam's in front of me. I got jujitsu to the back of the room. Adam came in front of me. I have no idea. It was like one of those like turning doors where like you flip in and flip out. That's how I felt.
And they didn't see me over there. They just saw Ashley by herself. Yeah.
And so I get flipped out. So I got tapped out without being tapped. I just
I pushed her out of the way.
Tossed me out the way because he saw the husband was about to come at me. Yeah.
So I was like, man, I know you didn't just put your finger in my wife's face. I was like, I know. Please tell me I'm seeing things. Did you just put your finger in front of my wife's face? And he's like, she did it. I said, man, shut up. Stop. Did you? I just need a yes or no answer. Did you just put your finger in front of my wife's face? I said, I'm not joking with you. Did you do? Yes, I did. But she almost woke up our baby, and she disrespected my wife. I was like, my wife didn't disrespect. I was like, first of all, you guys are supposed to be in this room. It says one family at a time. And then I'm like, second of all, don't ever step to a woman ever in your life. Are you crazy? Right. Are you crazy? I was like, your wife was fine discussing with my wife. I'm not even mad that you guys have a disagreement on how this thing works. I was like, what that made you feel like you had the right as a man to get up in my wife's face and put your finger in her face? And he's like, well, blah, 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 blah. So then the worker is like, hey, seriously, it is one family. You guys need to step outside. So they step outside, and the wife holds the door open. So she passes the door to her husband. He puts his foot at the door. So now the door is open, and now they're just like throwing. Yeah. Because you have to like turn in a cell phone. You have to sign out. There's a whole and we haven't done any of that yet. Yeah. So we still are. We have to be there.
And
and for me,
I'm like, I I go on Royal. The last thing I'm trying to do is fight anybody. I was like, okay, my husband handled. We turned our back. They're still yapping.
Like they're just yelling things out.
And so the
you need to be quiet when it's past 9. You need to shut your mouth. You need to, like, the wife saying that.
And the crew members are like, you guys need to stop. I said, am I not looking straight at you? I said, I am not concerned with them.
like literally the worker,
We are not concerned with
the
them.
worker was like looking at us and she was like, yeah, I need you guys all to calm down. And we're like, bro, we're just trying to pick our son up.
We're
like,
just literally trying to get out. There's talking.
But because, like, me and Ashley are more, again, unfortunately, we fit under stereotypes. You know, she's that loud black woman, and I'm that, you know, big dude with tattoos and all that. And they were just this, like, friendly-looking Indian couple, you know, that was, like, in their 40s. So it was almost like if you just came in, you would have been like, oh, that couple started it. Like, looking at me and Ashley, we just fit into the stereotype that we would. So, but the worker right there saw it all. So I'm looking at the worker and I'm like, can, like, you get them to stop? We're just trying to leave, but we got to sign all this stuff. So I mean, you know, I don't know whether I handled it well or not, but basically what happened was, because they wouldn't stop, the worker couldn't get them to stop.
And you guys have to go out through that same
We gotta
door
leave the same door. Oh yeah.
because they kept the door open.
Yep.
Correct.
And mind you, this is like day
That's
3 on a
childish.
cruise, and when you see one person, you're going to see him again and again and again.
Yeah. So I turn around and I look at the husband. I'm like, hey man, you need to get your wife to stop. You need to get your wife to stop. And he's like encouraging her, right? And so then I go, hey man, please get your wife to stop. And then she looks at him. She's like, are you gonna let him talk to me like that? Which I didn't. I never addressed her once. I never looked at her. I talked to him the whole time. Please have your wife stop. So I said, hey man, please get your wife to calm down. Please have her stop. It's getting really irritating. And then she like looks at him and like, you know, like, oh, you gonna let him talk to me? And then he looks at her and he goes, please stop. You know, like he tells her to stop, and she just walks and she like stands off into the corner of the room because they just wouldn't stop. And we're asking him. Ashley now is still signing out, so now I'm standing at the doorway and I'm just like, you guys gotta stop. This is just getting out of hand. And so that all happens, and then I just looked, and then, you know, he gets her to stop, and I just said, hey man, there's a lot of people I do life with. They wouldn't even have let you guys get this far. You never know, because they were like from another country, and so they're, you know, so I just was kind of like, hey, you never know. Like Americans, they don't roll like the way you guys took it. I know a lot of people who would have, like, it would have gotten really ugly by the way that she was. I mean, she was, you know, she was saying slurs. It was terrible, and we never matched that energy, not once, you know. And she just wouldn't stop. She was just trying to get under Ashley's skin. And for me, I know Ashley can go there. So I'm just like, I'm trying to like, I got this. The husband was joining it. So I'm like, I'm going to take it with the husband. So all in all to say, like, when that happened, then you know, he was like, okay, yeah, no, I understand. You know, like he got really because it just went from throwing slurs to me just going like, all right, well, I mean, are we going to fight? I don't know what, you know, like,
Right,
where is this going to go? I don't know, you know, what do you want to do? I don't want to,
Right.
we just want to get our son and go home, you know, go back to our room.
Right.
But all that to say, like, my perspective of it was just, you know, like, in that moment, because it's a public setting and stuff like that, it was, yeah, I don't think men or guys should step to women like that. I think they should respect women. If I was in public and as best as possible, if I start having an altercation with a woman, I just think there's so many strings attached to that as a man, you need to walk away. And also, if a man stepped to you, I'm gonna defend that all the time. And you're also responsible of forcing me to defend it or not. So you're also responsible in whether I get my butt kicked or not, because I feel like I have to defend your honor, even if I know, like, not that it's going to lead to fighting, but even I may get my butt kicked verbally, you know, but, and we have other instances where you got me into trouble before, but always, it was like, it always started with like, you meant well, but you have a temper. So like once they didn't respond well, or like, cause one time you asked a guy, like, if, you know, a couple times if he could move his car up when we were at LAX so that we could load our car, and they were there for 20 minutes. And he was like, you know, you effing blank, blank, blank. Will you just shut up, you blank, blank, blank? And yeah, like I had to, you know, I had to step in on that.
Yeah.
And you meant what? Like, you weren't rude, you weren't blah, blah, blah. And I mean, we had to handle that. And so, and I was right next to his car, and that I've shared in a sermon before. And his dad wasn't even in the car, and I was like, are you really gonna,
just let your dad be
you
exposed?
gonna talk to my wife like that with your dad not? And his dad's like, pulling on the door hand, let me in, son, let me in. I'm like, you just risked your dad. What if I was crazy? I could have popped your dad. Like, what do you, like, you're not, people sometimes are so selfish in their own anger and their own, because to me, I try to operate in grace. I try to have the sight of a believer, and I'm human, and sometimes I may say dumb things or whatever, but I'm always trying to process in, like, man, how does this represent my faith? So I'm always trying to, bring a situation down. And, I have a wife that at certain times that isn't her first thought, it's like she starts that way. And then it's like, if you cross the line, it'll go there. And not too often has it happened with women too much. I think you're a pretty intimidating person, so I think a woman might back down from that. But guys seem to
they think I'm just gonna pop off right away.
Yeah, so they just come at you with attitude and stuff.
Straight
so
away.
those
And I'm like,
times,
I don't know why I deserve that, but okay.
But I'm not the type of husband who thinks his wife's perfect. I think you are wrong 50% of the time.
All the time.
And so, because I know men that they're like, I'll always defend my wife. My wife's always right. And I go, man, I don't always defend my wife. If my wife cut up on a guy and I would try to bring the situation down, and I would be honest enough to tell him, hey, what my wife said was wrong, and I apologize. Please don't ever talk to her that way. But she shouldn't have did what she did. And man, I apologize, but let's just calm down. Where I know other guys, they go 100 in, and they're like, part of me being a husband is even when she's wrong, I cover that. And it's like,
because
no, I don't agree with that.
Even you
doing
doing
your
that.
wife thinks she can,
do anything.
But even and if a husband, you don't ever,
yeah, and it's not
you don't
like
ever say, hey, Adam, you need to get hold of your temper, and you're always
100%.
defending that, then, I'm going to always think it's okay.
Right. And I'm in these instances, I don't ever think like, how do I get my husband to defend my honor? Like I'm going in this hot to see if he really loves me and he going to put the skin to the gravel or whatever. No, I don't ever do that. And in reality, there have been multiple times where we have been in instances where he can see my frustration is like coming, like he can sense and, I'm about to, and he'll be like, I don't need you here. And so, and I don't take that as I don't take that as offense. I think he knows that my personality could take it to a level to where it's not going to be beneficial for myself, and it's not going to get any clarity. There's not going to be conversation. There's just going to be back talk. And he's like, what's the resolution at the end of this? What are we trying to achieve after this conversation has happened? And so I even think when it comes to just disagreements within relationships or friendships, if a wife were to disagree with someone else's husband, I think that it has to come to a common ground where the husbands have the communication because they're to be the lead of the house, to then where the husband can say, hey, you may have been right, but look at the viewpoint from what this person was saying. Or, hey, you have to have a different perspective because everyone's not going to always agree with what you're saying, Ashley. And so in our marriage, I had to learn that because growing up and playing soccer, it was my way. I don't care. Like, sorry, this is what I said. This is how it's going to be. And you don't like it. Sorry, too bad. And so now as a wife, now I'm in a marriage, I can't say that because that's not fair to him who wants to defend me. And I'm saying, well, that sucks. You just got to defend me. Then we're always going to be in an argument. Then we're going to not be well when we get home. Yeah. But
and I think there's a couple contexts that are a little different too, in the sense of, I think there's two contexts that are different with it too. Is number one, if you're doing community and life with people, that's a little bit different. So like you and Nathan have gotten in arguments before. Me and Sanaz have gotten in arguments before. And I'm not like, hey, Ashley, you need to go talk to Sanaz. And you're like, hey, Adam, you need to talk. Because we're doing life together. Right. We're in community. I'm not going to always be your liaison with my brother who we're all friends and we're all doing life. I'm going to be like, hey, Ashley, you should go talk to Nathan about that. I'm not gonna be like, hey, Nathan, don't ever make that joke around my wife again. I mean, if it's something's coming disrespectfully or whatever, but it's like, if it's just because it's an argument or someone says something that they didn't know was going to offend someone, I'd be like, Ashley, Nathan didn't know that was going to offend you. Like, we've had conversations like that. Come on, that's, because she's heated, she may be upset. And I'm like, Nate, that's not only my brother, that's our friend. He didn't mean to that. Like, go tell him. I'm not going to be like, man, I got Ashley's upset because Nathan made Queen Latifah joke to Ashley and she got offended. And I'm going to be like, man, Ashley, I think you're in your feelings. Yeah. Like, I don't think something like that would have bothered you a month ago, but you've been stressed, you've been blah, blah, blah. I'm not going to go defend your honor with Nathan. He's not dishonoring you. What he said offended you. So go tell him, like that, so I think there's that layer. That's like, you don't always have to have your spouse be your liaison with the opposite sex. If there's access and relationship, go have those conversations. The third element that I think is uniquely different too is in a workplace setting. I don't think it's your spouse's job to defend you in a workplace setting. And so I know over the years, whether it's a spouse that doesn't work at work or like you and I, we work together, and you sometimes, we worked together now for 9 years or 10 years. And, there's people on the team who have offended you, made you upset, you've gotten in arguments with, and I've never been like, pulled that person aside and said, hey, man to man, don't ever argue with my wife at work, blah, blah. Not even because I may be the boss or whatever, because I could do that. I don't do that because to me, I'm like, Ashley talks to me, I'm like, I'm not in your meetings. There's a lot of context I'm not aware of. I don't know if you really did mess up. There's deliverables. There's people's jobs on the line. There's people's livelihoods. So as a husband, I'm not going to get in there and defend you because I don't know what's going on. I wasn't there.
Right.
So for you to just come, Gabriel offended me in a meeting and blah, blah, and me talk to Gabe and be like, hey, man, I heard you and Ashley were talking about a service coming up and you said something she was really hurt by. Hey, don't ever talk to her like that again. And he's thinking like, whether I work there or not, people's spouses do that.
Right.
And Gabriel's thinking like, what? So do I got to walk on like we're all working, we're all stressed. We all like, do I got to walk on eggshells now?
Right.
And I've man-to-man talked to people, like I've had people in church who their spouses come to work at the church and I'm just like, hey, you have to be mature enough to separate because you come to church here. So you think you have a level of access. You have to separate whatever stress and conflict that your spouse experiences in office. You have to be able to separate that because there's no such thing as a perfect setting. So there's going to be seasons where people are stressed or people feel like their voice isn't heard or people get offended. And if you take the husband view that you're, so-and-so said, well, oh, I know him. I'm in his Bible. I'm in his small group. I'm going to check him and tell him, you're stressing my wife out. It's like, well, if your spouse worked at Target, you wouldn't go to Target and talk to the boss or the manager, right? So, but some spouses do that even in a corporate setting too. Yeah. And to me, that's like, I would be encouraging you, be like, hey, go talk to HR, go meet with some of the executive leadership team. Right. If you really have concerns, like don't tell me, and it's not my job to defend you unless they said something that was really distasteful. I may not deal with it at work. I may run into that person and be like, hey, if you ever call my word a blank word or a cuss word, you and I are going to have issues. Not on a work setting. We have issues in life. There's certain levels to it, but just the workplace. I didn't like that my coworker who's a guy raised his voice at me. Like, I'm going to go down to the office and I'm going to handle that. Like, welcome to the real world.
No, you gave me wisdom when I was working at UPS. I remember that when the guy called me. He called me Smashly Ashley. And if you know back like when we were younger, getting called Smashly.
Yeah, that's like a negative. Yeah.
And so he was like, oh, what's up, Smashly? And I'm like looking at him and I'm like, I am a grown woman. Why are you talking to me like that? So then I was just like, first of all, it's very disrespectful. Second of all, let me just keep my mouth shut. So I went and told him and he was like, you need to go to HR. He's like, first of all, he called you out of your name. Second of all, he's calling you something that is inappropriate. And if your HR doesn't do, or go to your supervisor first, supervisor doesn't do anything, then go to HR. which ended up happening. But yeah, he didn't go down there. He didn't find out the guy's name. He didn't go on Facebook.
Get his email,
he didn't
or
get
Ashley
an
be like,
Instagram.
oh, I have his cell phone number. Here, you can have it.
Yeah,
and you're
none
going
of
to get
that.
me in trouble. You're going to have me land up in jail or,
Right.
or
Right.
with a misdemeanor because I'm trying to defend your honor. When you could like go to HR,
Sure, yeah,
like you have HR.
He can be reprimanded for something like that.
You can get a file on this
Yeah.
guy, if he's going to say that. Do that.
Yeah.
It's like, well, my HR doesn't do anything. It's like, well, get a lawyer. Like, lawyer up.
Absolutely.
Like, there are options, that you could take if real inappropriate things are happening.
Right.
I'm like, Ashley, I'm not going to be this white knight every time you need me. You have a voice. And we have people listen to this podcast, we have a very traditional marriage, a very traditional subject. But at the same time, I still never want to be Ashley's white knight, because if it's always, Adam, you need to do this, you need to fix this, then at some point, like, it gets turned back on me, where when I can't be your 100 and I can't do it, then you start thinking like, yeah, well, maybe Adam doesn't care anymore, or maybe he's this, or maybe he's that, because I'm always used to being like, yeah, babe, I'll handle that, I'll get that. So,
but one thing I think you said that was really good, that I think that is hard for, women to understand, and I did at some point too, is to understand even that husbands aren't always going to agree with what you agree with, and defend in those areas of what, based off of what you said. So like you said, for instance, like Jermaine and I have had many of run-ins here, and I've told you, and I was like, oh yeah, me and Jermaine had a run-in here of this or that or whatever. You never once were like, oh, I'm going to go to him. You always said, well, what did you do?
Yeah.
Where did you play a part? How did you affect his emotions? How did you make him, like, there was more layers to than just saying, well, you're my wife and I'm going to stick up for you. And I think a lot of women have a hard time realizing that you don't do that. You do that because you want the best out of me as well, to have a self-reflection of saying, did I, which majority of the time, did I have, was I the reason? And there's a funny instance where I told you, where I was like, my husband doesn't believe me, but it's okay. And I was like, whatever. And so then I told like 5 different people this story the next day. So I had a run-in with somebody and I was trying to help them. They gave me attitude and I gave them attitude back. And I was just like, I'm just trying to help you, but whatever, what are you, rude? So I called him, then I called my father-in-law because I had to deal with something he had to deal with. And then it kind of just went away for the day. Well, the next day he gets an email with Pastor Diego. Hey, so there was these people on campus that were kind of doing things that they shouldn't have. And I was like,
from someone else who had another bad experience with,
from
with
someone
that
else.
same
Yes.
person. Yeah.
Yes, with the same person. And so like in that moment, I didn't need him to come back and say, Ashley, I'm sorry, you were right. They probably did treat you that way. It was more of like, how can you humble yourself to realize like, hey, it'll be revealed and you don't need validation from your husband. You didn't really need it from your father-in-law. You just live with your own peace. And did you handle that well? I was like, I started well, I finished terrible. But there was growth in there to say, my husband's not going to always side with me. He's not always going to be like, Ashley, I believe you.
Yeah.
Because
and with you, in the sense of like, as your husband, I'd be ill-pressed, and you and I wouldn't be better, not only believers, but people, if I didn't know what your weaknesses were, and I didn't know like your context, your history, right? Like if someone has 8 jobs within 3 years, like, do some reflection, like the problem might be you. Like it's not like, it's like, I've just been unhappy with every job. It's like, well, you've had 8 of them. You've been unhappy with 8 of them, or that place was, all those 8 places were bad. Like at what point are you going to start reflecting, or, somebody says, I've had 4 car accidents in 2 years because people don't know how to drive. Well, 4 accidents in 2 years is not normal. So, like, at what point are we going to start maybe go getting some driving lessons?
Yeah, like, this isn't just a coincidence.
Yeah, it's not coincident. And I think sometimes in marriage, for the sake of you, quote unquote, trying to be happy or keep peace at home, you overlook your spouse's weaknesses. And so then you just continually encourage by either defending or agreeing with them. Whereas, like, I know one of your weaknesses, you start out really sweet and soft and nice, but if someone pushes your button, like they could pretty easily get the attitude out of you. So when you're coming to me and you're telling me about conflict, one of the first things I want to discover is, did they push a button of yours? Like, was a button pushed? And so I want first, hey, let's talk about it first. What happened? Oh, they gave you attitude, you know, and so like in Ashley's instance, you could say it doesn't matter, but there's an instance where we hold sheriff's graduations at our church.
Okay.
The graduation they're not allowed, it starts at 7, they're not allowed to enter our property till 6:30. And when they come, because we still have work and we got school and all that, we got to clear everything out. So guests can arrive. The people actually graduating can arrive up until like 5 or 5:30. But even if you're an officer, like you can't get in unless you're graduating. You got to wait till 6:30. So you may be an officer that's there to see a friend graduating, but like you're not getting in till 6:30. So Ashley sees some officers trying to get into our admin offices, which is not even an entrance. And so Ashley's like, hey guys, so good to see you. Welcome. Are you guys graduating today or are you attending today? And he like with attitude points to his uniform and he's like, I'm a cop. You know, like it doesn't matter what. I'm in uniform. Like I go wherever I want, you know? So and like totally gives her out. He's like, I'm a cop. And Ashley's like, well, good for you, big guy. You know, like blah, blah, blah. Like she just pops off on him. And she's like, good for you, big guy. Oh, love such a nice uniform. Anyways, you can't get in until 6:30. Have a great day. And she opens the door they're trying to get in and closes it behind her and then leaves. So, you know, she started out, you know, very nice and helpful. But what he said, you know, which I know for her, push her buttons.
Getting in.
So she, you know, so she has the altercation. She tells me, and I'm like, okay, well, did it happen that way? Did it not? My wife's got a history, she, you know, like, so I didn't tell her like, hey, that's wrong. Or, cause she was like, you need to email their sergeant and just make sure they're like, I could have not been me. Cause she's like, I'm good. But like, what if that was someone on our team and they're wondering like, why are we doing this for these people if they don't even treat us with respect or whatever, right? So she's thinking of that. And I'm just like, yeah, babe, like you could have came in heavy. You could have been, you know, did you really say, can I help you guys? You could have said, you can't get in here. And that could have caused them to be upset or whatever. So I'm trying to look at it in a different lens. She's like, no, I swear. I was sorry.
I was nice. I promise.
Nice, blah, 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 blah.
And then he laughed at me. And I was like, that was it.
Pointed to his uniform like he's the boss, you know, like. So she says that and I'm just like, and I'm like, because she's like, you need to talk to the sergeant. And I'm just like, no, I'm not. Like you shouldn't have reacted the way you reacted. And so I'm not going to pick a fight when you're also guilty. So I'm going to have to tell him, if they go talk to those officers, I'm going to have to tell them, you know, because they're going to bring up her side. And I'm going to have to say, yeah, I'm sorry she did that. So we're all just going to, at the end of the day, have to be like, yeah, we both made mistakes. And I'm like, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. And then the next day from another one of our lead team people, they sent an email which was like, hey, I want to just let you know, Pastor Adam, like, we had some officers who were just like really rude to our team yesterday. Like Ashley didn't talk to him. It was like other team members. And you know, that's out of character for them. They're not normally like that. And so there just must have been a couple people in that group that just kind of were rude. So I'm going to talk with the sergeant about making sure that when they're on our campus, like they treat our team and our people with respect. And he named some like other run-ins. So then I went back to Ashley and I was like, hey babe, you know, yeah. So, we did have some of them that were acting pretty rude, and so
I knew it.
You know, they're gonna talk about it.
I didn't say I told you so. I was like, I knew it.
So I'm like, yeah, you're probably right. You probably handled it well, but
I didn't.
not handled it well in the moment. But I mean, I didn't mean handle it well. I just meant like you were justified with how, you know, how things went down. But my first instinct was in that moment isn't like, man, I got to defend my wife's honor. It's first. Because I'm never going to be with those people again. So I can snitch. I can get them in trouble. I could do whatever. But that still has no connection to me. What does have connection to me is my wife. So her being the best version of herself and her helping me be the best version of myself, because I have different struggles. I'm isolated. I don't have empathy. I don't. It's a tough word to say, but like I struggle with caring about like family things. I didn't really grow up with that. So like when Ashley's like, oh, I got a family thing going on. I'm like, okay, you should do that. She's like, are you coming? And I'm like, so I struggle with that kind of like emotional. And so my wife makes me better because she's like, no, you need to be at that. Like like that communicates caring for people. They want you to know. And then I'll be like, yeah, okay, I'll do it. And then I come back and I'm always very thankful it happened. So in the way that I know what her weakness is, she knows what my weakness is. She pushes me to invest in, like with my boys, I'm very intentional with Matthias and Thomas and her. I'm just like, that's my whole life. But all the other auxiliary things like, you know, cousins and aunts and uncles and all that, I'll just be like, yeah, we don't have to go to that. We're good. And then she's like, no, like we need to do that. That's important. And I'm like, okay, yeah. Or someone gets hurt or something. And I'm just like, yeah, they'll be fine. And she's like, no, I think you should really call them and reach out to them. They just lost their father. Cause me, like when I go through things, or like when my dad had cancer when I was younger, I didn't want no one to talk to me. I didn't want no one to ask me how he is. I didn't want no one to ask me how he's doing. I didn't want no one to ask me how he's feeling. I didn't want, but not everyone thinks that way. Mm-hmm. So then I've had friends that they've experienced things with their fathers, and I'm just like, oh, I'm gonna give them space. Mm-hmm. And then they'll sit down with me and be like, Adam, you never called me when my dad was sick. Mm-hmm. I'm just like, man, I'm sorry. When my dad was sick, I didn't want no one to call me because I didn't want to talk about it. Mm-hmm. So it's like people are different. And so Ashley helps me with like, hey, you should reach out to that person. Mm-hmm. I heard and I'm like, oh no, they'll be fine because that's how I am. Yeah. But not everyone is like me. So that's my weakness. Mm-hmm. And my wife helps pull that out of me. And and I'm thankful for that. So we both have as every couple does, we both have our strengths. We both have our weakness. Mm-hmm. Hard to get me mad. It's easy to get Ashley mad. It's hard to get me to like care. Mm-hmm. You know, it's easy to get Ashley to care too much, you know? So like as spouses, I don't come home and I'm not like, Ashley, you should, leave me alone. I don't need to call that person. They need to call me. They need to reach out to me. And Ashley's not like, yeah, you're right, Adam. They need to reach out to you. They need to build a relationship with you. She's like, no, you should, like, it'll mean a lot to them if you reach out. So she's making me better. And or put me in group text with people that when they need me, relationship, I'm always available. I'm very relational. But like when people are going through stuff, I like to suffer in silence. So I assume everyone else wants to do that. And that's like I'm still working on that over the years.
Oh yeah, all day. Like I was just thinking about like just my patience. Even yesterday, I went to go get my lashes done, and there's this new like check-in system, and she was like, sweet young black girl, and her and I, and so she's like, hey, what apartment are you going to? And I was like, I've been coming here. I normally don't check in like this. I just tell you where I'm going and I tell you your name and I go there. And she's like, we're doing something different. I said, I have no idea. I have to go on my phone. And she was like, yeah, I need the apartment. And I'm looking and I was like, okay. And so then I was like, okay, went through my phone, and then she's like, I'm sorry. I'm like, it's okay. I'll find it. Let me just text her. And so like, she's being really kind, and I'm like, but my annoyance is like, you guys have never done this. Why all of a sudden you're doing it now? I'm going to be late. You're asking for it. That's what's going in my head. But I'm like, be patient. She's being nice. Yeah. She hasn't popped off yet. If she does, I'm gonna be there. but if I was
there, I'd look at her and be like, just pull it up. Just call her. Like, what are you talking about?
What are you doing?
What are you mad at?
So like that's why I was just like, yeah, right.
What are you getting frustrated for?
Well, and because I think there's a line behind me, so now I'm like rushing, and so then I'm getting anxious, and I'm like, can you give me a minute? She's like, yeah, no worries. I'm like, this is because normally you think I think I'm ready for someone to pop off. I think that's where like the healing has to take place.
You're ready for a fight.
Always. Yeah. And it's a verbal fight because I ain't never been in a fight in my life, a fist fight.
But a lot of times we're a picture of how we were raised. So your dad was a teapot kettle, and once that kettle was on the fire, your dad would just release and for me, my dad doesn't have a high empathy level, and my mom went through a lot of family stuff, and so I grew up where like your immediate family is close, but like every other kind of your family member like isn't important. They didn't have relationships really with with aunts, and I didn't really grow up with that. So that I come to you and the idea of like this huge extended family, and we make time when they're in town. I'm like, why? Why do we make? So it's like normally like how you were raised, you could, and you should get better. You should be better, because all they're more than likely doing is mirroring what they saw. So for you, you're mirroring, you know, how you saw your dad fix problems, which was raising his voice and getting upset. You know, I found my dad fix problems by just quietly isolating himself and going and figuring it out and not talking about anyone. Now that I'm older, I see that, you know, he does process it, and he and I have a great relationship, but I see how, you know, as someone young, I wouldn't have seen it because he was doing it behind the scenes.
Right.
So yeah, it's just, I think it's great to want your spouse to be better.
Yeah.
And there are times to defend your spouse. There are times to speak up for your spouse, but there's also times for you to pull your spouse to the side and be like, hey, like, you caused that. Like, that was all you. That was like,
You
what
were
you
solo
did,
dolo on that one.
what you did was ridiculous, and don't do it again. You know, we get, you know,
Ridiculous.
yeah.
No, that's great.
Yeah, I just thought of a time that I just thought of a time where this some wife wanted their husband to defend them with something, and I was with some buddies, and the husband came up and apologized because she basically was gonna, if we were anything other than Christian, he would have got beat up, and you know, there was 4 grown men, and he comes back from something, and she's like, you need to get them, they blah blah, you know, they offended me, and he's looking at her like, defend him how? You bet these 4 grown men about to be like,
beat
me up.
Yeah.
So he came back and he was just like, hey, I heard this story, man. Just want to say I'm sorry. That was my wife.
You're like, I'd rather get beat up at home.
Yeah, but it's like,
She's
you know,
wrong.
he did
wrong.
it right.
Yeah,
Like he came back and was just like, yo, you know, 2 wrongs don't make a right. We good. Like I'm not defending her on this, you know, like, and that's respectable, you know. But yeah, great episode.
Yeah.
Thanks everyone for who asked that question. No, nobody asked that question.
Nobody asked that question.
But it's a good topic to jump into. So everybody have a great, wherever you're watching this, however you're watching it, have a great week.
Yeah.
Send us some reviews. Go on podcast, Spotify, Apple, YouTube, subscribe, thumbs up, 5-star it. If it's anything less than 5 stars, don't leave a review. But no, I'm just kidding. But give us some stars, helps people expose, and find us on all the platforms.
Yep.
Thanks for joining us, everybody.
All right, bye.
Bye.